grab your pre-workout and turn up that volume. It is time for a new episode of the Powerlifter's Den with your host, Cam Smith. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Powerlifter's Den. I'm your host, Cam Smith, and today I wanted to bring on Jordan Buchla from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Jordan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Jordan Buchla. I'm 31, disgustingly. And right now I hold 2 world records. I got one in squat for the 242 weight class, and I squatted 780. And I have one in the 220 weight class for the bench, and I benched 545 in a poly shirt. And yeah, that's kind of where I stand right now.
Great. So to get started, I like to get a background of everyone. So we'll kind of talk about what got you started into powerlifting. I know you have a background in kind of bodybuilding training and kind of some family ties to the fitness world. So maybe just tell us a little bit about what got you onto the platform.
Yeah, sure. Growing up when I was younger, my dad, he was a bodybuilder and a powerlifter, and he owned his own powerlifting gym in Illinois, actually. And the Lily Bridges were actually their training, and they were actually like his training partners
Oh,
for
that's
years.
awesome.
Yeah, it was really crazy before like the Lily Bridges were big. So I would walk around his gym when I was younger and see these big humans, like because my father was very large as well, not tall but wide.
Yeah.
And so I was very much aware of powerlifting growing up. And because he was a bodybuilder, I saw him do the tanning and going on stage and just being ripped all the time and the bathing suits. Like I was very much aware of the sports. But I didn't grow up around him, so it's not like I was engulfed in it the way that I probably would have been if like he was. Um, so instead, I kind of got into the fitness from when I was in my first degree at St. John's University in New York. You know, you're like in like your young teens, or early 20s. You're just trying to figure out who you are, what you want to be, what you want to look like, who you want to represent, you know? And I started to work out, and it was very slow and very kind of just dipping my toes. I wasn't confident, so I kind of went to the track at like 4 in the morning before anybody was even around, and I would run, do everything that like the average person off the side of the street knows to do, right? Like knows what a crunch is, knows what a push up is, or and they like can run up the bleachers and run around. Like I did jumping jacks, like I just moved.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing. I started to lose a little bit of weight. And so I got confident enough to go to the gym right when they opened their doors at 6 a.m. So now I started walking into the gym. But all I would do was just go on a treadmill and kind of just go try to do my thing, run, walk, limp, who knows? And then I slowly but surely got a little confident. I tried the gym, the weight sections. Again, this is all right when the gym would open. The only other people that would be training during that time would be the ROTC program that was at my university.
Yep.
And there was a captain there, and he would always see me training, and he asked me to train with them one day. He was like, I see you here at the same time. He's like, just jump in. He's like, you're going to have some fun. I was like, I would love to. This is great. So I was around a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
There were like 2 girls, but it was mostly men. And we did a lot of like kind of CrossFit more lifting. I did some snatches, cleans, learned how to do that, deadlifts. I was doing normal squats, back squat, front squat. Eventually got a little stronger, started to make more friends. I eventually became a personal training at that same trainer at that same gym.
Oh,
Like
that's cool.
that's how much I've worked myself from the bottom to the top, even like in that small little place, because I just felt like I had to, you know, like I don't know. As soon as I start something like that, I just kind of want to hit the ball out of the park. And I trained and trained really hard, and then eventually Hellbent Barbell reached out to me when I was home during like I think it was during like a winter break I had from college. And they DM'd me on Instagram. I had squatted 345 at the edge with a trap pad. With a trap pad on, I had wrapped myself. And I didn't have any training partners, but I posted a video of me doing that. And Mike and Jenna from Hellbent Barbell, they reached out to me on Instagram, was like, hey, like you should come check out our female powerlifting gym. I think our powerlifting like little club that we have going on inside of Hellbent Barbell. And they're like, just come check it out one Sunday. I went down there on a Sunday, and I know people from Hellbent say this, but it takes you. It
Yeah.
like it really just takes you, and it brings you in, and it doesn't let you out. As soon as I came in on Sunday morning, I mean, there was some like 6 lifters. It's very small, this gym. Like at the time, our Honey Spot location was very small. There was like 2 monos, 1 bench, like 1 deadlift platform, maybe 2. And it was just very small, but they were, like, blasting music, their own music, like, from an aux, nobody had headphones in, everybody was talking to each other, helping each other out, screaming at each other. It was, like, grungy. I loved the feel of it. There were, like, donuts hanging out at the like, right when you walk in, and then and when I went in the bathroom, like, the shower was outlined in, Bud Light, and I was like, "Wow, this is my place. Like, this is nice." And it's been history ever since, man. It sucked me in, and I wanted to go very far with it.
Yeah, and it's funny how, like you were saying, you started from just working out on the track, and I know a lot of people's journeys are different into powerlifting, but I feel like the common one is kind of once you get to that point, once you get under that bar, it's from there on, it's just you're addicted. It's such a, like you said, it's something that pulls you in. Like I know a lot of college athletes will kind of do it because they're used to training and it's kind of like another means to compete. But for someone who comes from a completely outside background of it, it's like a slow build into the point where it's just the point of no return, honestly.
Yes, yes, because you put so much effort in to even be involved in something like that, that it's like, yes, like, take that opportunity, seize it, you know?
100%. And then from there, maybe how long at Hellbent until you kind of got onto the platform?
I think my first push-pull was in March, and I started in January, so Mike, like, threw us in. It was just a push-pull, and I was very excited about it. It was really tiny. I think there's, like, maybe 10 lifters in total, but it was perfect, and yeah, that was my first meet. So it only took me 3 months but at the same time, I had a large foundation, like, from the way beginning of, like, where I said I just woke up at the track to being invited to help in. I mean, I was about 10 years of training, that I just uh, threw myself under. And I was very consistent for those 10 years. It was just something that it pushed me and I never really wanted to let it go. So
Yeah, and for I guess another question would be, was it on the platform where you kind of realized that like this is your thing now, or was it once you kind of got invited down to Hellbent?
Um, I knew that I was, like, stronger than the average female when I was at the edge, but when you bring yourself from the edge to, like, a place like Hellbent, you get kinda shifted, and I almost felt challenged because I kinda felt like I was kinda, like, top dog at the edge, like, I'm probably the strongest girl in here, you know?
Yeah,
And bringing yourself from that standpoint to a place where they're telling you cues that you've never heard of, like, after training for 10 years, how do I never heard of this? Why are you guys making so much sense right now? And again, that was just because I didn't really have anyone training me. Everything I learned was through me, through YouTube, through, just my best reading. And I studied the NASM book and never took it. But like, so I really tried really hard to get myself to where I was, and this just propelled me in a direction that would have never been possible without them. I had constant hands-on help from all the guys and cues and learning everything and seeing multiply. My father was a raw lifter, and he was one of the ones that were like raw for life. Like, never want to talk to a gear lifter. Like when I told him I went gear, he like it was a long conversation. I had to it. And he still wants me to go back raw. So it's kind of funny because it has that fight between the two, you know?
yeah, and I think an important thing to pull from that is kind of how you mentioned you go from like the big dog to basically the little dog in the room. Because I mean
Yeah.
that's kind of why I love training up at Evolve on Sundays and just even at Mass Iron, like training with John and Charlie and them like that, who are just lifting weights that I couldn't even imagine putting on my
Right.
back or putting on my face right now. Like it's something that keeps you challenging and keeps you going. So being in that environment where, yeah, you're a top level lifter at most meets you show up, but you're not a top level lifter in the gym. It keeps you humble.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I really tried pretty hard to compare myself to mostly of the men at the gym. I really wanted to just like get invited to the big dog lifts and like be on that big mono where people are afraid to go into like during the top sets. And little by little, it took me a long time to A, have the confidence to believe I could, and B, actually get invited and do it. So it's really cool.
For sure. And
Yeah.
then I know you did train or you did compete raw for a little bit, and then you eventually got into the gear. What kind of,
Necessary.
what'd you say?
I think it's necessary.
Oh, absolutely. That's something that I'm a firm believer in. I almost think that even I would say, I mean, my total is, I guess, pretty good to the normal person, but even in like my opinion, I would say that jumping into gear at this point is almost too early in my opinion, but it was just kind of something that I was forced to, but not against my will because I'm around it so much, and I was like, all right, I gotta try this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, honestly, dabbling in it isn't a bad idea, especially it strengthened my bench, my raw bench.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Immense. So so I definitely, I think dabbling in it is totally fine. But if you really like if your goal, the end goal is to be a really good equipped lifter, then you gotta be a really good raw lifter. You know what I mean? First. But if you're just like it depends like what the goal is, to be honest. Going into it once or twice to see how it is, I mean, that's really cool. It's forcing you to learn different tightness and control that you would have never learned in raw. Well, I don't want to say that. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. You probably did. I'm sorry. This just helped me at least learn some things for Raw that I didn't catch on to. Like the control that you need and the focus and the technique, like demand that multiply requires. It definitely elevated my Raw.
Yeah,
You know.
and that's something that's like I'm definitely not done with Raw, but I'm definitely not done with Multiply either, and that's kind of why I think for at least the next few years I'm going to be going back and forth. I keep saying to myself, if I can hit 2,000 Raw, I'll retire from Raw, but who knows? Because if once I hit that and I can still get some more out of the tank, then we're going to keep going probably.
Right? If you could taste it, you might want it all.
Exactly. But I guess my question for you would be, what made you make that decision? You're like, all right, it's time to try this equipped lifting.
Yeah, so I had these big goals in mind prior for Raw. I wanted to squat 600, bench 300, and deadlift 500. 635. That's what I kept saying to myself for a long time. And I had promised myself I wasn't going to go into multiply until I did it. And that's the one promise that I look back and I broke to myself. And I definitely I'm coming back for that. But at the time, my life was kind of shifting. A lot of different outside environmental factors were affecting me. And I started to lose my gas a little bit, like I was losing my motivation. I was starting to have a little bit more aches and pains. I was creeping into the 500s for raw and I was benching high twos, but never could crack that three. Like I made so many attempts at 300, man. And Andrew, like a part of my training crew, he was like, if you can't bench 300 by December, you got to stop training with us. Oh, okay. I was like, I gotta get my shit together. And so, it took me a very long time. I was in a rut and I felt like it was at a point where if I didn't challenge myself in a new way, I was going to lose my passion and my energy for it. So I was like, okay, let me just mess around. I threw on some briefs one day and I remember like, oh man, I was horrible. Like I was sweating completely raw the first time. Like my knee concave. Like you know how you do
Yeah.
that little Charlie Brown thing, and I was like, oh man, maybe I made a mistake. But then once I actually started to understand it and get that technique down, the pressure you felt in the hole, the crazy amount of weight that you can handle, it was like, oh, I feel like I licked cocaine. Like I was like, "Give me more. This is beautiful, and I wanna learn it, and I wanna perfect it."
Yeah, and I think with the whole burnout thing too, I think maybe deep down that's kind of something that I was like kind of being proactive on is like, I'm going to try this, maybe change things up. I don't think I'm done with this, but this is a way to keep things exciting and keep things different and kind of a new challenge because obviously getting stronger is a challenge, but doing the same thing over and over again isn't necessarily challenging. It just comes down to discipline.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Discipline is, I think, the key word for any for any goal, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of times those big goals are gonna take a lot of time and a lot of consistency, and people sometimes it's a long road. It's a long road.
Yeah, and speaking of discipline, I know obviously you've gone through a lot of schooling and a very intense schooling, and you're still able to kind of continue your goals in powerlifting. So, what are some of the things that have kind of helped you along that journey?
Yeah. So I have a bachelor's in business management from that was my first degree. And the goal with that was to graduate with a business management degree and open a gym. That was my original goal for going to school. And then I came out and I realized I had no money. I was like, well, how am I going to open this gym? I have this paper that says I had schooling for it. What am I supposed to do now? And then I was dog grooming at the time, and I was dog grooming for 9 years. So I was a dog groomer for a long time. And then eventually I wanted to go the DPT route, Doctor of Physical Therapy, actually. I knew I wanted a doctorate. I always wanted a terminal degree because, again, if I'm going to go for it, you got to go for it all. And then that way, I feel like I could end there. I'm like, that's terminal, right? I can't go any farther. I'm cool. I could stop now, you know? And I'm losing my train of thought. What was I saying? I got sidetracked. Um, with my degrees. So then, I decided to go for nursing because I didn't get into the doctoral program for the physical therapy, and that was really hard for me. It was my first time getting denied from a school, and I really wanted it, and I didn't know what to do from there. Point, I've never been denied like that, and I had take all the prerequisites for it. I worked for a physical therapist. Place for 2 years as an aide. I thought I had all the experience. I was a personal trainer. I had this and that. I didn't understand how I could work so hard and not get in.
Mhm.
And I didn't get in, so I was pretty shook. And then I slowly but surely started thinking about nursing, and I went to a second degree bachelor program that was an accelerated for 15 months. So I have a jungle in here, in case you can't tell all these cats around. And I got my second degree there for a bachelor's in nursing, and then became an ER nurse, and then was like, I need to go for the terminal degree. So I went for the doctorate, and I was 4 years part time. But I've been in school since I have never stopped. So I'm 31 right now, and this is my first time where I don't have school ever. So it's pretty crazy, and to have been able to have the scheduling and the dedication that it required was something that was not there in the beginning, but grew very well over these past few years because I had to. Because if I faltered in any way, I wouldn't have gotten my world records and I wouldn't have gotten my doctorate. Hello, sir. And it required daily like regimen. Like I would wake up in the morning, I'd say, what time do I have to do this by? What time do I have to do this? My entire day was planned out. I would go through it in the morning, make sure I was like rock solid. And that really was the only way of surviving.
Yeah, and I think that regiment and that time management, as well as like resilience, is kind of what gets you to where you were being a world record holder.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm a big person on if as long as I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, I'll go in the tunnel. But I need to see the light. There has to be this really large, shiny end goal that I'm looking for in order for me to actually be successful. I feel like if I don't have little goals, I don't feel very like motivated or determined to do anything. So I hyper focus on my goals a lot.
Yeah, and I think I kind of share that trait too. I'm a very goal oriented, very task oriented person, and I get kind of maybe poked at a little bit for kind of having these like crazy goals, but it's just something that
Yeah.
it keeps me going. Like if I say I want to beat someone at this certain lift, and they're gonna be like, "All right, you're crazy," but I'm like, I'm gonna do it at some point, and if
Yeah,
I come up short, then so be it. It's still a very good lift. So
exactly. I mean, if it takes a few years, then so be it, but you could do it, you know?
exactly. So
That's big goals, man. Do get them, go after them, make them. It will happen.
100%. So let's talk about your first multiply meet. Maybe the prep leading into that, kind of figuring out the gear, kind of working through that.
Oh man, my first multiply meet. My squat was great. I really didn't have much trouble transitioning. Once I learned that technique, I caught on pretty quickly. I was watching these men for ever,
Yeah.
at my power and the females, Jenna and Denise and Michelle. I was watching them for a long time before I actually went into multiply. So I was prefaced on it. I kind of already read the summary. I've been hearing the cues. John, now I just had to actually do them myself and understand the pressure that they were talking about.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't understand. I was just like, yeah, okay, it's tight. I get it. No, no, you don't. No, you don't unless you're in it. And leading up to it, my bench shirt, I could not touch for the life of me, man. I was wearing this shirt that it would get caught at that last half inch, and I would have to stay there for 3 seconds to bring it into my chest. And man, in 3 seconds holding a max weight for you, it's hard.
Yeah.
You're holding your breath. You're just praying to Jesus that it's staying in the same line, that it's not going to get dumped to your stomach or over your face. And the first meat prep was really rough. I think I went through maybe like 3 shirts, couldn't find anything. I think I actually opened with a band shirt to keep me, or raw. It was either I opened in a band shirt or raw to keep me into the meet. because I squatted 700 my first meet. That's very good for, I think, for a female.
Oh yeah.
I was very excited. And it showed that it was there during my prep, so that wasn't too surprising. But the bench was something that I was like, I cannot bomb out. I've never bombed out in a meet, and I try to keep that until my end. And I was like, I can't bomb out. What am I going to do? So we opened easy with an opener, and then tried 400. Looking back, 400 on my second attempt, and I dumped it. I think I dumped it to my belly, which was happening all prep. Um, and I was freaking out. Like, I was freaking out. I was like, I need to prove that I could do this. I want that 400 bench. And then I went in for my third attempt, tried the 400 again, and it was the slowest bench, man. I swear to God, ever. It was a woman judge. I remember it was a woman's voice, and I'm just waiting for her to say press. And I'm like, please, please say press. I'm about to die under here. And then finally she says press, and it just goes, and it flies up. And I remember being so like, it happens so fast, and sometimes if you're not, like, really prepared for it, it can almost, like, throw you,
Yeah.
you know? But I got it, it counted, and I think I immediately cried immediately after. It was ridiculous, really, my emotions behind that day was crazy. Deadlift, I suck at deadlift, man. I suck at deadlift. Like, I'm in the high 4s, I should be in the high 5s by now, bare minimum, but, that's where I'm at. And I think that day I think it was that day that I get, like, this chronic glute pain in my right side, and I think that day on my first meet, I was having some pain, so I think I took it pretty easy. I probably failed my 3rd attempt. That's usually my normal on for deadlift, and I think I got, like, 465 my first meet, or 445, nothing crazy, which was right around my normal raw. So deadlift has always started. I have never really concentrated on that during prep, but the learning the technique, it is key. You should be very strong, so you have to fight against those suits and the briefs, and the shirt, the gear. But if you have that technique down, you could be a secret monster,
Yeah.
you know? And that's kind of one of my fortes. There's a lot of people who are stronger than me raw, but I have very good technique in my gear.
Yeah, and for the bench shirt specifically, it's like even you could have one of those random days where you just set the shirt right. You don't know exactly how you did it, but you just absolutely launch a weight that you didn't even think you're going to hit that day. And then you spend the next 4 weeks trying to figure out how you set the shirt like that.
Yep, yep. I remember that I had during my last prep for the world record, I um I learned how to bench in that shirt like that last 2 weeks of prep. Like, I was having the same issue. I was just pushing it straight up off my chest rather than bringing it over my face. And I was trying to do it. I just couldn't successfully execute it the way that I wanted to. And then I was studying my videos, man, like nightly. Like, I would just stare at my videos, rewind them, watch my wrists, watch my elbows, watch my knees, watch my foot position. Where's my chest? Like, I'm like watching everything, and I'll sit there and watch it for hours if you let me. And I had one good bench day, and I was like, what did I do here? I need to make sure, and I realized my issue was just not bringing my elbows far over the bar. And people tell you to do it, and, like, you're supposed to do it, but actually doing it successfully is hard. And I realized that my body was putting me into that position. As soon as I would press, it would put me in that position. I was like, if I could just be in that position before the press, my body won't have to waste the energy to put myself in that position. So I tried it, and oh man, that last 2 weeks of prep was like saving grace. My numbers were just crazy. And it's interesting because I felt like I finally, after like 4 years, finally learned how to bench in that shirt. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to toss you aside, and I'm going to pick up another shirt. And I was like, that was stupid, but I'm going to try it anyway.
Yeah, and I think a big point too is I almost want to say to like any raw lifter or like someone who kind of hates on equipped lifting, like just try it and just you'll realize how much more technical you have to be and how many things you'll be able to pull out of it into your raw training as well.
Absolutely. And how quickly something can go wrong.
Yeah,
Man, it is like a half of a blink of an eye that a really heavy weight can just be thrown. you know?
exactly. And then
Yes.
yeah,
Bench is so scary. That's probably like the scariest part.
100% benching and poly is definitely the most difficult thing in powerlifting as a whole, and I can confidently say that.
I totally agree. But it's my favorite.
I wish I could say the same. Yeah, I mean, you bench more than me right now, so until that point, then we got some work to do.
But you deadlift more than me, so
Yeah, I'm trying. We'll try. But yeah. So I guess from that first meet to kind of now with having some world records on your belt, I know you're chasing down a few more. If you want to let everybody know what's next in store for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've had my eyes on the 220 squat world record for a very long time. I've had 820 written on my phone and on my car for like 4 years, like maybe 3 years. As soon as I got into multiply, I really wanted that. And so I'm going after it. I'm going to take it. And so right now, honestly, I think my squat and my suit and my outfit right now for squat is on point.
Hmm.
Bench, I'm still trying to figure it out. It's going well. I just have some work to do. And deadlift, man, I'm still at the drawing board for deadlift, so can't even talk about that. But on hindsight, I am really looking for this squat, and not only do I want 820, I think I'm going to be a little greedy and take a little more, but I'll leave that on my as a secret.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think with that next meet coming up, whenever it is, I think we can talk a little bit about who you worked with as a coach. I know you work with Laura Phelps, and obviously you have kind of like Mike and Andrew and the rest of the Hellbent crew kind of helping you out. So tell us a little bit about what it's like working with them.
Oh man. So I'll start with Laura. Laura is amazing. She is the epitome of what women should be in this sport.
Hmm.
She's done nothing but give back, nothing but give back. She paved the way, and then she was like handing out her hand for others to come with her. And I think that is just the most admirable thing that a leader can do. So she will always have my top respect. And just to be coached by her is just my honor, like truly. And it's actually brought us together to be really close. We've gone on vacations together. I talk to her often, and she's a close friend at this point, and that's something that I am also very honored for. And she's been amazing. She answers my crazy voice messages sometimes. And I'm like, I got no idea what I'm doing right now. What should I do? And like sometimes, especially during prep, I really start to talk to her because I need a little bit of confidence, a little sometimes, and some like a reassurance about certain decisions. And I know that once I hear it from her, or once I hear it from Mike and Andrew, I'm just like, all right, once I hear it from them, I know that we could be good here. Um, and then switching over to Hellbent, man, I I don't know what I would be without Hellbent. Um, every single time that like somebody is there, like they all stop what you're doing. They all come to help you load and spot you during your set. I mean, you can't really find other than other powerlifting places. But the atmosphere is just unmatched. It really is insane. And every single person in the gym will stop for one person lifting. And that's something that I feel like is very hard to find. And Mike and Andrew have been kind of like but just by my side, just in my ear, and fixing me in person where, like for Laura, it's hard to do because she's a famous human and far away in Ohio and I'm in Connecticut. So having that in person um advice is also in person and in time, right? So like not only just like me and you right now, but like in that same moment where I did something wrong, they're like, do you remember feeling this? Like, this is what you did. This is what I want you to do. Try it right now. No, that's not right. Try this. Like that is what brought me way farther than I could have ever done alone. I could sit there and study my video recordings all day, but if I don't know what I'm looking for and I'm missing it over and over again, and somebody else can see it, I mean, that's key. Um, and they've just Hellbent has showed me nothing but value and support. And that's all I ever want to give back because I love my Hellbent family a lot. And it's given us all something to kind of look forward to on Sunday mornings and Friday nights and Wednesday nights. It kind of gave us a home.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I know obviously John's coached by Mike as well, and so we pull a lot of things from kind of what you guys do, and we love coming down there and visiting sometimes, and having you guys come up is awesome and things like that. And just like you said, the Sunday squad energy is just something that you can't even explain until you've been there.
Yeah. It really is crazy. I try to explain. I think I posted a video one time and I said, "What you guys do this Sunday?" And I had posted a video of all of us. It was such a cool video. It was unprompted. It was me walking up to the bar. Somebody was using my phone. Me walking up to the bar. I squatted like I think it was 815 with reverse bands. And then like he just moved the camera over and the other mono, somebody was squatting something insane, moved to the other mono, somebody literally just squat. It was like so synchronous and perfect. Somebody else squatted, then they moved to the deadlift platform and Tony was deadlifting something crazy. And I remember people were just like, what is this? I was like, I know. It is the coolest atmosphere. Everyone's like just aggressive. There's chalk flying. The music is blaring. You can't hear your own thoughts. Like, it's nice.
Yeah, and another thing from that too is kind of just the way things flow is you guys work down there like a well-oiled machine, and it's something that a lot of gyms should be able to kind of see how things work, and it's you can still keep that chaotic crazy energy with these insane weights and all these crazy people, but when you get that kind of that rhythm down and that crew down, it makes life a lot easier and makes things a lot safer too.
Oh, absolutely, right? Because now everybody's paying attention, and that's important. I was just talking about that this morning, actually, at the panel that I was at. And it's so important to have those people that you can trust. Because if you're squatting, right, something crazy, there's usually two people aside, somebody behind you, somebody running the mono, right? That's about six people that's concentrating on just your one lift, let alone if you have an extra person calling you in and calling your depth. And then somebody recording you, right? I mean, that's a tribe. That is a tribe. And I think that that's just the coolest thing about this sport.
Yeah, and I think this is a good little segue to talk about that panel that you went on to.
Yeah. So this morning, I just spoke for a fundraising event. It was called Powerful Conversations, Breaking Barriers, and it was about women empowerment. And we raised money for a grant that every year they give to a female business owner. So I just spoke on a panel of women. There was five of us. And it was multiple like business women, community leaders. It was really cool and awesome. And we talked to a crowd of 60 people. And it was like the first time I ever did something like I've gone on podcasts, I've gone on radio stations, and I was on the news, but it was for like powerlifting, you know. This was my first time that I ever was. This felt like I was walking into the women's pro am for the first time, but like academically,
Yeah.
you know, like where I walked into this room where people looked at me as a professional, but not like a powerlifting professional, but actually a professional in this, like in a career. And that was my first time I feel like ever representing myself like that around other very successful people. I felt like it was my first pro day, you know, because I was like, oh, I'm on a panel of like these really cool, like high end women. And I have to try to belong. And it was a really awesome, liberating, and encouraging experience for me this morning.
Yeah, that's great. And I think with powerlifting too, it's definitely one of the most empowering sports for women. And I think the community is often maybe not as highlighted as much as people would think if you're
Yeah.
outside of it. But once you're involved, you'll realize just the support is unmatched. I mean, you have the women's pro-am, which is literally an all women's meet. And to date, it's probably the most electric and most exciting meet I've been to so far. And I
Yeah.
mean, you have people like you, Laura, all these incredible people that are just so supportive of the sport.
Yes, yes, absolutely, man. And it's so cool to see them all in one room, like Leah, Amber, when Becca still comes there, you know, and it's really cool to see these people that, you know, I've watched on West Side versus the World, and I've seen some of these humans that I'm seeing in real life, and I'm just like, wow, this is so inspiring. What a change. Like you guys, I hope they all look around the room and realize that they did this, you know?
Yeah.
And way.
Eh, Yeah,
And
when I went to the women's pro am, we did a bench day at the sweatshop before, and we pulled in and we saw someone drive by. We're like, this person looks familiar, and then we went to, I think we went to the gas station to get like a Ghost energy drink or something. We pulled back and Amy Weisberger hops out of the car, and we're like, holy shit. And then, so she was ended up there for that training day. And then we went to the meet and she's running the mono. And we see Leah, we see Laura. We're like, the Mount Rushmore of women powerlifting is here.
oh, right, right, so cool. Oh my God, Amy was running my mono one time for the women's program, and I was just like, and then she was so nice after. She's like, clapped her hands like as I walked by, and I was like, I'm gonna pretend like I don't see it, but I really see it, and that's awesome. I just love it. Everybody's so cool.
Yeah. And then I guess a little bit more into kind of the women's side of powerlifting. I know the men's side of powerlifting can be often dramatic for no reason, to be quite frank. Um, but it seems like from my point of view, the women's powerlifting community is very cohesive, very supportive. So maybe just talk about your experience with that.
I would say so, honestly. Even when I would go to the smaller meets, and I would go into like the bathroom with my singlet and like I'm all like, chalked up and like baby powder all over me. Every girl in there is always just like, hey, like very nice. We're all very nice to each other, uplifting, supportive. Of course, you'll get those people that they have that persona on Instagram or on their social media. Then you meet them in real life, they don't really match up.
Yeah.
But I would say for the majority of people, especially women that I've met, they've aligned. Um, and it's extremely empowering and it actually makes you a little hopeful, because they're not just trying to be successful for themselves, but they're trying to be successful for everybody else too. And I think that's a really great quote unquote why behind your actions. Like when you're trying to make moves and have make a change, that is a really cool why for me. And I can't do anything but back that up.
Yeah, it
And the
is.
women's program, that's why I want to do that next meet, because if I'm gonna take like the biggest bench and stuff like that, then I really, really want to do that on a woman's meet and make some noise.
Yeah, 100%. And I almost think it's kind of like you guys are trying to, not necessarily, but it's almost like a point to prove type of thing where it's like, all right, this is a male dominated sport. I'm going to show you guys what's up. And I think maybe men are getting a little too comfortable in the sport.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I want to make you guys scared just a smidge.
Yeah.
Um, I was at the last meet that I did. It was pretty cool. It was the bench only meet, and that's when I hit the 545. And I was in the weight room warming up, and I heard these guys who were all warming up for their bench. They're in the same flight as me, and they all said, "Who's that guy that's opening up with 500?" And I heard them all say it, and I'm like, my name is Jordan, so it's a little.
Yeah.
And me and Andrew actually were standing there and he heard it and he's like, "Did you hear that?" And I was just like, and then he goes, "It's her." And then they all turned, they're like, "What?" "No way," like blah blah. And I was like, it's cool because there's actually men who have come up to me and told me that they're inspired by me. And I mean, I can't even thank you. I can't thank you enough for saying something like that. Because I mean, how crazy is that to hear for a male in a male dominant sport that is involved around strength, that revolved around strength training, comes to you and says that you inspire you, and I'm a female. It's very empowering. Yeah, it's the coolest thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's really cool. And kind of going back a little bit too, with the news article, I mean, you're a women equipped powerlifter. It's a very, very niche thing. And to see something like that on the news is cool. So maybe we could talk about kind of how you got reached out to about that and kind of just, I would imagine there was some shock when you got reached out to by a news station about that.
Yes. So honestly, and still to this day, I have no idea how they found out. I don't. I have a feeling somebody close to me submitted something, but nobody has ever fessed up. I've asked everybody. I truly I don't know how these people found me. But it was actually a DM on Instagram, and those could be lost sometimes. And I was just like, I got this DM and it was like, "Hi, like I'm Taylor, something from NBC News. Like I would like to do or no, I'm sorry, this is Connecticut Post. I would like to do an interview on you, blah blah." And I was just like, "Is this spam?" No, this probably isn't real. I think I ignored it for like a week because I was like, "This can't be real." But then when I reached out and found out that it was real, it was crazy. And then I remember telling my family, and I was like, maybe I'll like be in the sports section. Like that'd be so cool. Like imagine if I'm on like the first page of the sports section. Nonetheless, on a Sunday morning, I was front page of the paper. Like not just the sports section of the paper. And there was somebody that I had said that to initially when I said, like, maybe they'll put me in like the sports section and I'll be on the front page. And they're like, well, don't get your feelings hurt. Like, if you're just in the sports page, they're like, don't get your hopes too high. And then here I get this, and I'm just like, my hopes aren't high enough.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And so that was really cool. And being on TV, like, that's just like, I never really thought that was going to happen. So that was very cool. And they got to come to my gym, which it's just so cool. I'm very grateful for every single opportunity. I was on a radio station, the Lisa Wexler show. So that was pretty cool. And then that random podcast that I did, like that you found this morning.
Yeah. And so I think like I said, with it being so niche, seeing like a powerlifting I guess bit on a news station is just incredibly unique, and I can only imagine just how out of place a camera crew in Hellbent looks.
This guy, he grabbed a ladder, climbed up to the top of the ladder in front of me, my benching. Like I'm like the bench is in between me, and the guy is at the foot of the bench with the ladder, and he's above me, and I'm benching. I'm like, this is wild. And I was like, you need to get this ladder out of here before my members freak out. Like, you can't be doing this. It was really crazy and really fun. Yeah, it was really funny.
And then I guess as far as kind of more training into there, I know you and Andrew both are coached by Laura, and you kind of are able to adapt to, I guess, integrating her program with kind of the way things flow at Hellbent. So I know Andrew said it's pretty smooth there. I just wanted to hear your perspective on it as well.
Yeah, it is really smooth. It's hard because, we focus on the people who are in prep, that they take precedence, and that's totally, I have no problem with that at all. I think that's correct. So, on Sundays, sometimes if two of the monos are taken and, your variation isn't one of them, then you have two choices. You could either go on the crappy mono, or you can by yourself, which is tough because, a lot of people are kind of mostly focused on the other two monos, or you can jump in with them, or you can just not do your variation of the day.
Yeah.
So, I pick and choose those times because it's hard. Most of the time I want the crew, so I will just jump in with whatever variation they're doing as long as it doesn't mess me up or I'm not in prep. If I'm in off season, I'll just jump in. A max is max,
Yeah.
unless I'm looking for something specific to build. But yeah, no, I think it's very easy to blend the two. And we all have different schedules, but as long as we're there on the big days to help each other out, that's really all that matters. Keep each other safe and goal. But yeah, integrating them both has been no issue whatsoever.
Yeah. And that's,
Laura is amazing, man.
yeah.
Yeah, and so is Mike. They both are truly, truly amazing, and it's a cool opportunity to be able to see Mike's training in person too.
100%. And that's something that even up at Evolve, like obviously, like I'm in like my little raw volume phase right now, and every time they're doing these fun like they're taking their Circa Maxes this week, and I'm like, oh, I might just throw on the full kit just because we're not in prep right now, and it's really
I
hard to kind of stick to the plan.
I know. And sometimes, man, they could bully you into it. Like Mike is sometimes just like, Jordan, jump in and just try to keep up with me. And I'm just like, don't tempt me.
Yeah, Connor Boyle literally just texted me. He's like, "So you're gonna hop in with their Circa Max?" I'm like, "So you want my kneecaps to turn into projectiles? Like that would not go. They're doing blues with 200 and chain. I'm like, I'm not gonna survive that."
Yep. That's the type of AR. That's hilarious.
So right now, kind of what I know you're pretty far out from the next meet. Maybe what is some like your training looking like in terms of intensity and volume?
Yeah. Right now, my biggest goal is to gain my consistency back. There was some time just because these past few months have been crazy for me with graduation and everything. So, and I traveled like twice. So I've just lived my life a little bit these past few months. And during off season, I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
But it's time to turn up the fuel. Because honestly, March sounds like a long time, but not really when your prep is 10 weeks, right?
Hmm.
Like I would prep in December and it's already October. So I don't really have that much time. So right now I'm extremely focused on breaking in my gear and seeing if it's the appropriate set and combination for my squat, for my briefs, and for my suit. And then making sure that I can really touch in the shirt. I haven't touched in it yet. So that's something that we need to do. And like I said, that's something that can take a long time to learn. But I'm very confident with this. I really, really think I got this. Um, I need to build up some of my weak areas, like my triceps kind of got a little weak because I stopped pushing them as much. Just during this off season, I've noticed that I'm going to the dumbbell section and I'm grabbing the same dumbbells, man. And that's once I start realizing there's a pattern there, I'm like, no, I'm not pushing myself enough. So right now it's basically I dialed myself down a little bit to survive these past few months of my life, and I'm about to turn it back up.
I'm
Um,
very excited for that.
oh, me too. Me too. I'm very excited for it. I feel this is a really great starting position. I feel like I'm starting basically right where I left off, which doesn't feel so bad. So usually that I have a little bit of a step back, right, where I have to get two steps forward just because of this one step. But I feel pretty solid right now. I just need to see if the bench shirt is really my concern.
Yeah, are you using the 2-ply Titan?
Yes, the katana. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that thing's a
It's
nightmare.
tough. Yeah. That's what I hear from a lot of people. And it's funny because the way that my brain works, like when people say something is really challenging and they're just like, I couldn't figure it out, man. Oh, it's hard. Good luck. I'm just like, all right, then watch me. Like that, like it makes me like I want to now because of how many people said it was so hard. I want to take my time and see if I can master it, you know? So it would be so cool. And then eventually, like, I was playing around in a band shirt, and
Oh
band
boy.
is kind of, I know, it's venom, don't taste it. And that is, it's tickling my fancy a smidge for now, but right now I'm hyper focused on the poly.
Yeah, well, I think that's definitely a another world record that you could probably go after.
Think so too. I think so too, but I don't know if I'll do it. I have tiny little wrists, you know, like, so I have to protect them. I'm
They make good enough wrist wraps nowadays.
gonna need like 3.
But I think we can kind of wrap things up here. So I'll ask you my last question. If you could give a new powerlifter or someone going into their first meet a word of advice, what would that be?
Yeah, going into your first meet. Okay, your first meet, do not take this seriously right now. This is just to get your feet wet. If this is your first meet and you're watching this video right now and it's coming up, do whatever makes you happy, whatever leaves you with a 9 for 9 day, 8 for 9 day, do that. Just get yourself your feet wet, build that confidence. You're doing something abnormal already. You're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. You're on stage in front of a bunch of people, and now everybody's watching you as you possibly fail this lift. Like, just go in there, do some numbers that you know that you can do. You have no PRs to beat. Everything today will be a PR. Every day, everything at that meet will be a PR. So just start it out light, get your feet wet, and enjoy the process, because this is going to be something, if you go long term, that, this is only going to get more and more exciting. This is just step one. But a big goal that I would say too is, your openers are so important. And this is not just for people who are just starting. Your openers are the most important part of your day, right? Like, that's how your day of competing begins, with an opener of squat. So just choose a number that you can double on your weakest day. You come in and you're sick. What can you double? That's the number. That's a number that you should be doing as an opener. Something that leaves you with no doubt. Um, yeah, that's my biggest that's my biggest pearl of wisdom.
I couldn't agree more. I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to come on. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. This was great.